Forever Comics here with week 4 of the new 52. It's finally all said and done. In the end, I was not disappointed. Maybe 1 or 2 books here or there that maybe weren't as strong as I felt that they could have been. But still, hey, when number 2 comes out next month, who knows what's going to happen. And it could be as pretty soon as next week, as I was actually referring to the Green Arrow number 1, which didn't go as good as I expected it to. But hey, number 2's coming out, and I still look forward to it just as much to hope the story got better. But aside from that, excellent work all around. Writers, artists, creative teams, excellent work. You can't go wrong at this point. Keep it going strong. Marvel Comics is answering back with a lot of things on their own. First up this week with the new books that I picked up, which unfortunately I will not discuss yet because I haven't read them. We have Kick-Ass Volume 2, Issue number 4. It follows the story after the hit movie. It actually came out with Kick-Ass Volume 1 about a year or 2 ago. Average day high school kid wants to become a superhero. Obviously, in reality, that's impossible, so he ends up getting himself seriously hurt, near dead. Because of that, he has damaged nerves, nerve endings. He doesn't really feel too much anymore, so he's able to go out and take a good punishing, and after that, still come out a hero. A very weird story, incredibly graphic, not for kids whatsoever. Naughty language and whatnot. But this is the second volume coming out, and I'm collecting this, and I hope that once it's all wrapped up, I'll read it all as one giant story. And sometimes just the best way to enjoy certain miniseries. Also from Marvel, which I will not discuss yet, which is the Mighty Thor. Mighty Thor number 6 wraps up their first storyline for the new Mighty Thor series. It will continue. Great artwork, great story all along. I will discuss that also at another time. First book for discussion this week. Quick review this week as well, as we have a lot of books to get through. The new Avengers 16.1. Marvel Comics has answered back with their own, not restart, but a great starting point for first-time readers, or people who've been out for a while who just want to catch up with where all the Marvel characters are at now. So point 1 is something that every book will be coming out with over the next series of months, probably till the end of the year. And this week, of course, I picked up the new Avengers 16.1. I have New Avengers number 16, and number 17 is coming out within the next few weeks. Those 2 stories will continue. However, the 16.1 is just something in between, which is not necessarily related to the overall picture, but still gives you an overview of what the team is currently going through. You know, what the overall ambiance of the group is, who's in it, and what major storyline is going to happen for the for the rest of the year, basically. They set up a nice storyline. After the, aftermath, the fallout of Fear itself. So let's see how this works out. As in this issue, actually, we see the Green Goblin and the Avengers here battling it out. Norman Osborn was in prison, the original Green Goblin, thought dead in the 70s, 80s. He's now back, and he's actually let himself escape from a prison through the help of cult members, if you will, and he's almost started his own uprising of people who believe in Norman Osborn. They believe he is the future. Spider-Man's worst arch nemesis next to Venom. So it was just very interesting to see that he's out again. And if we know anything about Marvel Comics, we see that the dark new Avengers are coming. So we see a group of evil superheroes. How does that work out? They wouldn't be superheroes. A bunch of villains working for the government. Going to be very interesting, and that's kind of where we see this going again. Norman Osborn is free. He's back in the mantle. And what will he do with all the power and the followers he's got? We will see. First up from DC, The Savage Hawkman. Originally, this book I was not going to pick up. I just kind of got it on a whim thinking, hey, 1 extra buck, let me just at least pick up the number 1, see what it's about. And I at least want to give it the first 3 issues or so. It wasn't bad. The artwork was really good, and it actually surprised me more than I thought it would. You basically see Carter Hall, Hawkman, the Hawkman of old, beginning the issue actually ready to quit the mantle. He destroys his costume, the nth metal equipment that he holds, his wings, and his weapons. And literally, they blow up in a ball of fire, which turns into a flaming hawk, almost like an entity of energy that came out of these artifacts that he held. Which ended up taking over his body and kind of blacking out. And it comes to some time later, and he wakes up, and his friend's waking him up, and he says, Carter, where have you been? Why are you all banged up? He's not really too sure, but he knows of what he did. He knows that it's all over, and they destroyed his suit. He gives up being Hawkman. He's had enough of it. He doesn't even know if this is really Willy Ronzo, if he really ever enjoyed it. Now, at the end of Brightest Day, which wrapped up earlier this year, Hawkman and Hawkgirl, his true love, his beloved, are actually two souls that have found each other among different lifetimes, been in love every lifetime, and every lifetime they meet, they die together. And this was actually the last opportunity at Brightest Day to come back together, in which they both didn't. She unfortunately didn't make it out of that whole issue and that whole event. And Hawkman since then kind of went into this rage, and we kind of see where the story picks up here in Savage Hawkman #1. You know, he feels sort of like, what was it all really? You know, was it really all worth it? You know, would things have been different if he just would have made certain decisions? And he's ready to give up, but then we see that the Hawkman entity takes over, and when trouble comes afoot, the entity takes over, and he has no option but to become the Savage Hawkman. And it ends in a pretty decent cliffhanger with a dark entity coming from an ancient artifact that kind of steals his ability and kind of leaves him hanging for an to be continued. Can't wait to see where that goes. Next up, All-Star Western. That's right, a Western comic book. I couldn't wait to read this because I love Westerns. So this kind of just works all together. It's all about Jonah Hex in Gotham City back in the old Western days. 1880, I believe it is. Jonah Hex rolls into town, and he's still wearing his Confederate uniform from the Civil War, which has been over for quite some time. This just happens to be the only costume, the only thing he has to wear. He's a great gunslinging cowboy, a bounty hunter for hire. And when he comes to Gotham to solve a series of murders, it's funny to see just how he gets his detective work done, how he gets answers. Like I said, he's from the Wild West, so he gets things done his own way. And not everybody's too happy about it. As a matter of fact, rich and pompous people of Gotham City hate it, including one of Bruce Wayne's grandfathers, or great-grandfathers, the Wayne family line, who happens to have a dark history of their own, as well as Amadeus Arkham, the founder of Arkham Asylum, which now holds all of Gotham City's worst criminals, and Batman's criminals altogether. So you really get to see who's who of the old Gotham City, and you come to realize at the end of the issue, all of these people are linked to the murders in Gotham City. So Jonah Hex has literally been hired to solve the murders by the murderers themselves. It's really interesting, quite a mystery, awesome Western story, and the artwork inside, it works so well for the type of story it is. It's gritty, it's got the flat colors and a nice solid outline. It just reeks of the old Western days. Good read. Anybody into Westerns? I suggest picking it up. All-Star Western #1. Next up, another Justice League book. Unlike any other Justice League team, it's Justice League Dark, handling things paranormal and otherwise. Here we see the Enchantress, evil, I believe she's some sort of sorceress, dark witch, which is trapped in the magical envelope, sitting in the house in the middle of nowhere. And she happens to escape, and the energy is reading off the scale. The Justice League is alerted to this right away, however, and when Superman, Cyborg, and Wonder Woman try to stop it, they all find themselves trapped in this witch's world, and they're almost killed. Due to the extremity that when you're locked into some kind of magical battle with a sorceress, you're in her world. You're doing anything under her terms. It's not in your world anymore. Remember that. Justice League had so much trouble they had to unite this new team of Justice League Dark, featuring Deadman, Zatanna, and a few other great characters you might have recognized from DC's past, the Vertigo line, John Constantine. So here we see this adventure kind of building up, and we see that they're all kind of brought together by Madame Xanadu, sorceress, good sorceress, who's kind of been flying throughout the DC future, this whole time. We see her in comics from the Middle Ages. We've seen her even, in books, storylines even before that. And we see her, she's putting this group together. And the group comes together due to the visions that she keeps seeing of some kind of apocalypse. And that's kind of the vision that we see as we see the words to be continued in the last page. A bloody apocalypse with a bunch of dead heroes. We'll see what happens next. Very good read for anybody into magic, mysticism, sorcery. Awesome. Next, Batman the Dark Knight. Here we see the same creative team, David Finch and now Paul Jenkins, come back to kind of continue what was Batman the Dark Knight Volume 1, which is only 5 issues. It came out right before DC came out with the new 52. So here we go. This is the first issue, and it read well. Great intro from Batman, discussing fear and what fear really is, and how fear is just something that we create for ourselves. And the only way to manage it is for us to face it. My words may be kind of simple, but reading the book, he details it incredibly. Well written, and the artwork is just so much that it just oozes the Dark Knight. It is the Dark Knight, it's Batman. The darker stories will be told in the Dark Knight storyline, the comic line, and it begins here with a huge breakout from Arkham Asylum. And at the end, we kind of get to see a nice cliffhanger when we're introduced to the new Two-Face, as somebody's given him some kind of a hell of a steroided boost, and he's turned into some kind of raging Hulk with this dual personality thing going on. Interesting. We'll see what's going to go on next time. Arkham Asylum is loose, and it's up to Batman to get all these criminals back behind bars. Good read. Very good read. Incredibly well written. Like I've said before, and unfortunately, not a lot of the books that are coming out from the new 52 are really geared towards kids. I would say teenager at best. Start at the teenage years, for most of these books. However, a lot of young kid books are really available. These stories are dealing with some great elements, personal growth issues, things that some kids might not understand, things that be way above their heads, So it's really for, teenager to older reader, just stories that we can really appreciate, and unlike many movies or soap operas that, many enjoy. And with that being said, we come to one of the best written stories of the whole new 52 period, which is The Flash. Francis Manapul, former writer, has now become former artist for The Flash when he was writing over Jeff Johns, is now taking over co-creating writing roles, which we see going on a lot in the new DC 52, which is great. Me, myself, being an artist, would love the opportunity to be able to have a hand and foot in the writing element of a story. And here we see Just So, with a great cover by Francis Manapul. In this story, we basically see Flash reintroducing himself. We get to see his powers in almost every single array. We get to see the full spectrum of what Flash can do with just speed and the Speed Force. Great read all around. Francis Manapul's artwork continues to stun me. It's just basically the Flash. You'd think Flash, you see this artwork, it works perfectly. And luckily enough, this week, my friends over at Comic Book Jones were able to help me out by getting the variant cover. And luckily enough, thanks to my brother, this week is a 2-week variant. So we'll be able to see that in just a second. But the Flash here wraps up incredibly when an old friend of his happens to be part of a group that's trying to commit some kind of heist. And when he ends up getting killed, Flash realizes that it's an old friend of his named Manuel. Manuel actually comes to him later on in the issue, and Flash doesn't understand it. Right as he's trying to explain himself, they're getting chased down. Flash catches, puts his uniform on, breaks into a speed burst, slows down, only to find that there's like another 20 Manuels standing around, a bunch of clones, and Flash doesn't know what's going on at all. Pretty odd beginning for a story. I can't wait to see where this grows. The detective, Barry Allen, is back in the mantle of Flash after Flashpoint. No mention of Flashpoint storyline in the new universe continuing, but there really doesn't have to be. It's a great kickoff, and it's an awesome start. Great read for those who are into it. Next, I have what was the most awaited book for the new 52. What I couldn't wait for the most after the events of Brightest Day, Aquaman #1. This book couldn't have been more original, more creative in its writing, incredible in its artwork and the way it looks. I was almost at a loss for words just how to really describe this to somebody who really doesn't know it. When people think Aquaman, they just think the guy who talks to fish, and this issue is almost basically a way of introducing that to that common fan or that common person who really doesn't know who he is. They explain to you, they break it down. It basically comes down to Aquaman saving somebody in the city, and they ask him what he's doing there. Doesn't he belong in the ocean? When just in reality he was sitting at the shore. Aquaman was simply taking care of business at the waterfront, some personal business. He cares about the land dwellers, he cares about everybody else. It's just that people don't really relate to him anymore. Comic fans and people in the comic, existing characters existing in the comic world themselves, they can't relate to Aquaman anymore. They don't know what he's about or what he's doing. He's not just a fish talking guy, which most people think he is. He's actually this great hero who doesn't actually speak to fish, but more manipulates their brains and their thoughts and pushing them into action whenever he needs to. Squid, sharks, whales and whatnot. Dolphins actually hold up great conversations with him, as he describes in the book. And he decides to go to lunch, after he saves these city folk, and he decides to go, pick up some fish and chips. To which somebody in the diner says, "Gasp! You can't do that. You talk to fish." And then he breaks it down. It's not exactly what he does, and he's trying to explain this to all these people. and sitting in the diner, into which this one guy comes and this blogger comes and he goes, hey, listen, what's it like being nobody's favorite superhero? Nobody knows you, which really distracts him. Almost like very directly, he asks Aquaman, what's it like being nobody's favorite superhero? What does it feel like to be unrecognized? Almost unfamiliar to everybody. And as sad as that, as that is, it's true. It really is true. As messed up as it is, it's true. Most comic book fans, kind of handle Aquaman as this B character. You don't really see him too often. But if you pay attention to his mythology and everything that's going on around him, it's what a story, what a drama. It really is, between him and his wife Mira, and the loss of their baby child, all over the past few years, and what's been going on in major DC stories there. So after Brightest Day, in which we see, Aquaman brought back to life and kind of dealing with the fact that he could only control dead sea life due to the curse of the Black Lanterns. It's just nice to see him just kind of accept everything. He accepts the fact that who he is and where his place is in life, and he decides just to join us as land dwellers and give up Atlantis and all this, and all that crap. Just be Aquaman, be happy, have a life amongst the land people, if you will, amongst us. And at the same time, we see the birth of a great new evil, some kind of piranha-looking race from deep within the ocean, who thinks of us as food. And that's it. To be continued. Thank you, Jeff Johns. Thank you, Ivan Rice, for an incredible book. It's so original. The next following book, actually the last couple of books are actually books that I guess can almost round about the entire DCU. They kind of just give us the whole the feeling, of the cornerstone of what DC meant with the whole renewal, the starting over. Nothing is ever truly dead. And we start off, of course, with none other than Superman. Now, of course, Superman is in Justice League and he's in Action Comics, but now this is his own #1 issue. Superman is here. And it was written so incredibly well. It reminded me of the Superman of the 80s. Something older, where you see this great threat kind of come in and just kind of get thrown out by him within one issue, and really don't know where it comes from, where its exact origin is. But Superman's there to take care of it. Almost like just a formidable foe for him to have for the first issue, to introduce what this new storyline will be like. And we just see Superman kind of just thrown back by the fact that the Daily Planet is gone now, reduced to rubble, made way for a new building. Times are changing, and then, like I said, in a way, it's almost like DC's way of telling us, hey, times are changing, not to say out with the old, in with the new, but it's time to refresh things. Everything's updated. The soul of the story and the characters is never truly gone, and that's kind of what represented here, and Superman's personal dialogue, and just kind of like his inner thoughts. And it was just so well done, so much to read, so much writing was done for this book. So many bubbles, so many panels. It's such a full story. You feel like you're in for such a read. I'm surprised, what they were able to accomplish in just the amount of pages they put in. Incredible read for the Superman fans, a definite story to pick up. And lastly, one book I didn't even pick up this week, and actually I didn't even plan on picking it up, but being that my birthday was this last weekend, September 24th, my brother sent me a birthday gift. Of course, he got me Batman #1, a book I intended not to pick up, just because I felt like The Dark Knight was a series I wanted to pick up, because I really enjoy Finch's work. But upon reading it, it's just, damn it, it's probably the better Bat book. It is such an incredibly well-written story. Kind of gives us another look at Bruce Wayne, not only in this book, but in Batman and Robin. We see that he's kind of ready to move on with losing his parents. He's ready to let it go. It's still his drive to fight crime and, make sure it never happens to anyone else, but he's done suffering for it. He's done, beating himself up for it. He's done crying. It's time to just do what you got to do. It's time to look towards the future. This book is all about talking about, preparing for the future, what the new Gotham will look like, and kind of like the new direction that Batman's taken in, all the new gadgets and toys he's got, but still staying true to that Batman feeling. And the artwork was done by Greg Capullo, and he did a very good job, but my brother, being the awesome guy that he is, big ups, he got me the variant cover as well. Great variant cover, very awesomely done, and it was probably the best Bat book of the month, and there was a few Although Detective Comics, I must say, was still the big shocker and the big surprise, just due to that Joker story. And with that, we've wrapped up the new 52. And I'm glad for all those who joined us for the ride. And listen, we're just getting started, right? This is month 1. You know, I would really appreciate if somebody just left a comment, concern, criticism, anything. Whether you like comics or not, just let me know what you think about it. Take a few minutes to let me know what you think about it. You know, I'm going to be here. I'm going to keep making this thing. You know, so you join me. Join me. Let's talk about comics, cartoons, movies, video games. It's, you know, it's all related into that same entertainment world. You know, let's bring it together. Let me see what you got. Let me know what I'm missing. Let me know something interesting, interesting book or a story I'm missing out on. So until then, you know, we'll be here forever, like Forever Comics. Later.